I'm making some fingerless gloves coming up to winter, and I just thought I'd show you a really clever trick if you're trying to save yarn or just even gauge how much you need to cast on. So I'm casting on with what they call the long tail method. If you want to find more about that, you can find lots of help on YouTube. Basically you end up with a long tail and you knit the stitches onto your needle. This is a really clever trick. I'm casting on 40 stitches, so I just take the yarn just so I can hold it, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's getting a bit hard now. That's where I ended up with 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's my 40 stitches. So that's where I ended up. I'll make a slip knot. I put that onto my needle. And I'm left-handed, so I'm sorry if this is back to front for you, but I cast onto my right needle and I have my long tail in my left hand. That's my long tail, and that's exactly how much I need for 40 stitches with a little bit left over. And the way I cast on is I take my thumb onto the needle and then I knit that and then just pull it up firmly, not super tightly, not leaving it loose. So I knit. That's 3. Okay, the pattern I'm using is for an 8-ply wool. I'm using 2 strands of 4-ply, which is a sock yarn, sock wool. I love blending colour, and I love the way 2 strands of sock wool looks. If you're new to knitting, perhaps try this first just with an 8-ply, because sometimes the 2 different strands can get a little bit confusing, but I love the way it looks, and I hope you do too, because I will show you how 2 strands of 4-ply wool can look in just a minute. So I'm just casting on. This is my thumb. Okay, if you want me to do that a little bit slower, get my thumb, take a circle, take the needle, and then I just hold it, go around like you're knitting, take that over and pull it up firmly. So this hand, your thumb makes a circle, the needle makes a stitch out of that circle, the right hand comes over and pull it up neatly. Like I said, this is called a long tail cast on. There's more simple methods, there's more complicated methods. Try a few and see what you like. I just find this works nicely for if you're starting a project with rib. And most stitches, and I always find with the knitting the first row is the most difficult row. If you're new to knitting, after you cast on, please persevere. The first row is always the hardest. Now, how do you see you've done knit and how do you see you've done purl? It becomes a little more evident after a few rows, but I try and remember that a P for purl, a pearl and an oyster is round, and in knit, the K in the word knit has 3 strokes to the letter, and 2 of those make a V. So here we've got 2 knit there with a V, 2 purl with a round. 2 knit with the V, 2 purl with the round. It will become a little bit more evident later, so just counting the first row is really important. I've just done 2 knit there, 2 purl, 2 knit, so now I'm on to 2 purl. Now, how do I count my rows, you ask? You can write it down on a piece of paper, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then mark them off as you go. If you lose track of that, then I'm showing you for rib, but it applies to what they call stockingette or plain stitch as well. This is how you count them. So this here is the cast on row, and for each bump in the same direction is a row. So that's our cast on row, and then I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rows I've done. So they are bumps facing in the same direction, laying in the same direction. So that's our cast on row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is called casting off in pattern. I've done 2 by 2 rib, 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl. So I'm just about to cast off this fingerless glove. I'm finished. I'm just about to cast off. So what I'll do is do 2 knit, and then cast off 1, and then 1 purl, cast off 1, 1 purl, cast off 1, 1 knit, cast off 1, 1 knit, cast off 1, 1 purl. So that's called casting off in pattern. I'm following the pattern and casting off 1 as I go. And casting off, you take the first one, take it over the second one. You don't need to pull it up at all. You need just a little bit of elasticity with casting off ribbing. So I'm up to a purl. Taking the yarn back to cast off. Taking the yarn back, I'm working in pattern, taking the yarn back and casting off 1 as I go. Now I'm up to a knit, knit, I'm up to a knit, take the first one over the second one. Now I'm up to a purl, take the yarn back, purl, take the yarn back. It's a little bit of extra effort, but you end up with a little bit of elastic cast off, which just means you've got your rib, which is quite elastic, and the cast off won't actually be really tight, and then you lose all that elasticity of the rib. I'm up to a knit in the pattern, another knit. So my rib was 2 knit, 2 purl, so I'm casting off keeping that pattern. That's called casting off in pattern. I'm up to a purl, to a knit, so if you're new to casting off, you only ever have 2 stitches on your working needle at one time. And I'm casting off in pattern, which means I'm keeping with the pattern and then casting off one stitch. So I'm up to a purl. Takes a little bit more toing and froing with the yarn, casting off in pattern, but it makes a much neater cast off, and you keep that elasticity of the ribbing. Knit one and keep it loose. You don't want a tight cast off. Up to a knit. So you only ever got 2 stitches on there on your working needle at one time. Take the yarn over, do a purl, so I'm up to a purl, take it back and cast it off. Take the yarn over, do a purl, take the yarn back and cast off. I'm up to a knit. So knit, you don't need to take the yarn over because it's there already. Just about to do the last stitch with a cast off. I just want to show you a trick to make the end of your work nice and neat. So this is the last stitch, casting off in pattern, and then so that you're left with one there. Normally we just cut the thread and make a slip knot, but what I wanted to show you, so that you don't end up with a big peak at the end, go back to the row before and pick up the last stitch in the row before, like that. Pull it tight and then cast off that last stitch over that one. And what that does, that's just a slip knot to pull that tight. What that does is make a nice corner there rather than it stretching out and peeking off up into the distance. So got a nice square end, nice square end, nice square end, nice square end. So that's now ready to sew up. Do one more and sew that up. This video is showing you mattress stitch. So what we do is we bring the 2 seams together and we sew it from the right side, not from the inside. And what we do, we start from the corner, we work from this corner, we pick up a few stitches, and then we go back to where the thread yarn was on the other side, and we literally work through both sides like this. And after you've done the a few stitches, you pull it through until the thread pulls up the seam and it's an invisible seam. So I'll show you how it's done. That corner has the thread already there. Go into this corner, pick up a few stitches, pull it together, come back to this side. Where it started from was the very corner, so we go into the corner. I'm just going one stitch in, going through a few stitches. It'll sort itself out in a little while. We just have to find where we went in to the one on the right hand side, just there. Go under, pick up a few stitches, go back to where it was on the left hand side. It looks a little bit messy at the moment, but when we pull it up and cinch it up, it ends up being an invisible seam. Go to where it was on the right hand side, pick up a few stitches, go to where it was on the left hand side, pick up a few stitches, go to where it was on the right hand side. This is called mattress stitch. Now after we've done a few stitches, you'll notice that it looks a little bit messy there, but what we can do is pull this through, hold the end, pull it through till it becomes tight, and you end up with an invisible seam. So we'll just open it back up to find where the last stitch was on the right, pick up a few stitches, go back to where it was, just pull our thread out a little bit, our double thread, find where it was on the left, back to where it was on the right. So I'm stitching along the same valley that I started on, which is just picking up those stitches there and continuing on the same valley of stitches. Two or three at a time. Find where it went in on the left. Find where it went in on the right. Find where it went in on the left. I'm getting to the end of the ribbing. Find where it went in on the right. I'm going to pick up one there because I'm at the ribbing on that side. And now we can pull that through, hold down here, pull it so it cinches it up tight, and by magic, like magic, we have an invisible seam. That's magic. This video is showing you blanket stitch, which is used to edge things and to help things keep their form. So I'm doing one stitch per knitting stitch on the edge of the thumb hole of this fingerless glove. Put it through, and then we put the needle back through the loop. That gives reinforcement. Through the whole stitch. Back through the hole that's made by the stitch. When you're doing blanket stitch, you need quite a long thread because it does take up a lot of thread, because you're almost doing 3 times the amount that you would normally do for a normal sewing stitch. Find that hole, go back through that hole, and keep going around. I'm actually sewing up. I've started here. It's a little bit difficult to see because of the multicolours, but I'm doing blanket stitch along that edge, and I'm going around the hole, and that makes the hole in a fingerless glove.